Welcome back everyone. Let's proceed ahead. So before the break, we discussed about various aspects in terms of Security Copilot, the UI aspects of the environment, how this would look like. I have also shared the simulation links and the respective steps that one is to perform. So let's go ahead and perform the next steps on our given environment, the simulation environment. So like I mentioned, we'll keep two tabs over here. One tab where we have the given instructions, and the second tab where we'll have to perform the steps. Everyone, let's do it together. This is my environment where the capacity mapping is being done. I'm not sure why it took time, but now you can see application assignments, cloud architecture guidance, common cloud config issues, right? User login attempts, user overview, right? There's some issue which is happening in this environment. Right? So what we'll do is we'll go ahead with our current resource. So everyone, go to your environment here, and if you see, this is Woodgrove. Right? And if you try clicking on any of the steps which is not being mentioned here, it will give an error. The feature is not available in the simulation, so we'll have to be careful. So open the simulated environment on the Azure portal. I'm already there. From Azure portal, go to Entra ID. So let's go ahead. Let's go to Entra ID. This is our next step. Left navigation panel, go to Manage, go to Properties. So you see these steps which is being enabled in the simulation, these activities we are supposed to do within our environment. Enable the toggle switch for access management of Azure resources. Now that you can view all the resources, assign access, assign yourself the owner role in the Azure subscription. Right now, same thing like I did for Amit, right? Amit Jagta, same details I am supposed to mention over here. So let's go to our subscription. I'm doing a bit fast because this is again a issue. So even if I have to perform the same activity, so let's go to our subscription. Even from search screen at search option at the top, we can perform the same activity, but doing it in a specific way is only allowed. So we have to follow that step. Access control IAM, add role assignment, privileged administrator role, right? So we are specifying permissions on the subscription level. We are assigning this role. Every hovered, right? Now once this is being done, I'm sure you are able to perform these activities within the simulated environment. So once you're done with this, so what we have done by now is with the first task, we have specified relevant role permissions for the user. Let's go to the next section here. Open the simulated environment by clicking on the link Microsoft Security Copilot. So here when we are performing these actions, the initial step that we have performed, this is already being done. So this aspect is being taken care. The permission setting is already being done. Now let's go to the next step here. Let's specify the capacity, and if you see, this is the same subscription. You can't create a new resource group here. We don't have permissions for that in the simulated environment. The resource group name RG1, capacity name, default capacity name is pre-populated. let it as it is, location, let's specify our location over here, Australia East, and this is what we did as part of our earlier implementation. You might realize that this is a older UI, and what we had done in the Azure platform, that was using a new UI. So let's leave the settings as it is, check on this checkbox. So this will go ahead, create our security capacity instance in a very similar way how we did it inside the environment, Azure environment. Okay, so let's go ahead. So this is how the environment should look like. In my case, I had got stuck. I was facing a problem there. So if you look at the Copilot usage, this is what we mentioned in our slide deck. That is, which of these users are allowed: global administrator, security administrator. Right now I am done with step number 5 and 6. So I am all done, and if you see the last step, that is clicking on finish. Right. So last one which I showed you all within my environment, within the Azure platform, it was exactly the same way how it is now showing it in the simulated environment. Can I see quick raise of hands, people who have got this done, or you all can do a thumbs up. Have you all got this working? Have you all got this working within your simulated environment? Or you all can put it on the chat. Milan, Yusuf, Ashish, Umesh, Krishnamohan. Great. That's a great question, Shambhu. Uh, Shambhu, once it comes to Sentinel, Sentinel's job is primarily to associate all the security resources together. In the back end, there you have log analytics as your implementation, right? Now, once it comes to Sentinel, it can help you with incident management, security challenges, right? That's the purpose of Sentinel. But if you look at resources like Defender, if you look at resources like Microsoft Intune, you'll have to keep adding all those members, correct? Sentinel queries. As far as the end users are concerned, they may not be able to write those queries or capture all that incidents, configure it everywhere. So what is required in the background in this context, especially once it comes to Security Copilot, you need not integrate all these things into Sentinel. Even if it is mapped to log analytics, that is good enough. Once that information is being logged, it can uh, Security Copilot can capture that information using any of the natural language being mentioned. That is an advantage that you'll get. Anyone, any other questions? Please feel free to put it on the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Thanks, Kaushal. Everybody else, try doing these things parallelly. If you are stuck somewhere facing a problem, do let me know. Right now, in this current simulation, don't try executing these prompts. You might get an error on that. The reason being, this particular simulation is mapped for owner settings, plugin settings, role assignments, right? So you all can try out these options over here, checking for these features. So if you look at task number 2, so task 1 I am done. I have got my resource created, clicked on finish. As far as task 2 is concerned, this is where I am right now on the owner settings. If you have missed out anything while creating the instance, those details we can verify over here. Changing of security compute units, enabling any of the features over here, logging audit data in Microsoft Purview. So make whichever changes one would want. Similarly, we can enable features on plugin settings. If you look at options available, you'll see plenty of details like I mentioned under the MISA section, Microsoft Intelligent Security Association. So you can see specific plugin settings within this environment. What are the options available? So we can go and review these settings under owner settings section, plugin settings section. Under category section, we can see there are a lot of non-Microsoft resources, non-Microsoft security resources as well. So these are our elements under owner settings, plugin settings, which members have been assigned roles. We can see over here global administrator, security administrator. Any members within this group, they will have permissions, and third user that we had mapped was every world. In our case, we could see Amit over here in my environment. Let's proceed ahead. So this is the second resource, second member that we have. Let's proceed ahead. So we have got our first experience here. Let's quickly go through the knowledge check. What are the steps required to onboard organizations and users to use Microsoft Security Copilot? Anyone who can help me with the right answer over here? Enable Copilot plugins, procure premium license, so Shambhu says it's the first option. Anybody else? Any other suggestion? I can see only one answer right now. Actually, the right answer should be the third one. Provision SCU, set up the default environment and assign role permissions. This should be the right answer. And if you see, Shambhu, the steps that we have mentioned, this is what we did, right? We specified the capacity, we specified the role permissions. Let's go to the next question. A security analyst is crafting a prompt to investigate an incident involved in Pearl Fleet actor. Which prompt will likely yield the most comprehensive results? So can you give me information about Pearl Sheet activity, list of known indicators, compromise and tools, tactics, describe Pearl Sheet, or list the Pearl Fleet activities? If you see the second member here, we will have to associate the plugin. So once we mention that plugin about any third party member, add that plugin over here, then we'll be able to get the information. Admin is, let's go to the next question. The admin is tasked with setting up Security Copilot and need to provision capacity. What is the current method? Provision capacity through a third party vendor, provision capacity within Security Copilot, or provision capacity by directly purchasing SCU from software retailer. Anyone who can suggest me an answer for this? Shambhu, any guesses here? it should actually be the second one, provisioning capacity within Security Copilot. So we can go to Azure environment, and within Azure environment we can provision our capacity here. Same way, like I showed an example in the simulation, and also within my Azure environment MCT account. Let's go to the next module, module number 3, and let's understand the core features of Microsoft Security Copilot. So guys, till now what we have done is, we have done 2 steps. Step number 1, creating the capacity for Security Copilot. Step number 2, giving permissions for respective users over here. Now once it comes to our experience, right now we are using the standalone experience, and within this standalone experience, along with the user settings, administrator settings, we can try out some of our prompts here, right? We can see a lot of pre-existing resources, prompt books, which rules we want to map over here, right? And here we can initiate help for the existing resources. If you look at the home menu, what we did right now within our simulation environment, right? So top left corner, open menu, here we have seen details in terms of sessions, prompt book, library, owner settings, plugin settings, role assignments, what is the, all these things are part of your primary administrative activities. Tenants are available guys. I have logged in back. Shambhu, am I audible to you? Can you see my screen? Thank you. So what I was mentioning about is the home screen. Now from the home screen, here what we can do is, we can initiate a new session, right? And like I mentioned earlier, so whenever we are using these models, we'll have to specify system prompt, we need to specify the queries or details that you are asking for from a user perspective, from any of the recent incidents which has happened, correct? So all these things will be part of your sessions. So one session primarily should be looked at resolution of one given incident, right? So that's how it will work. Let me go back to my environment here. Let's go to my sessions and let's see if I have any pre-existing sessions over here. It says Om Prakash, in the current environment you don't have a session. If you want, you can create a new session here by going to my sessions, create new session over here, specify whatever queries or prompt that you would want to mention in the current environment. Along with this resource, we have a prompt book library. Now, as the name suggests, these prompts, which are very commonly being used across within your environment, right? Say if you are working with Microsoft Defender or you are working with Microsoft Intune, correct? So we'll write some of the prompts time and again. So when we are writing these prompts, when we are creating these prompts, we can capture it, store it inside a single prompt book, right? We can also use it as a template. So if you remember, I was trying to ask a question saying, can you help me with recent activities of a user? It was asking me a UPN ID, correct? So here you can formulate it like a template where after specifying a relevant value, relevant details regarding the incident, say for example, if I want to find something about an incident, give me the incident ID. Now all these prompts can be gathered together inside one prompt book, right? And these prompt books can be used as a reusable resource time and again and capture the data at a quicker pace. Some of these things are similar to your pre-existing KQL queries within your Defender environment, right? Pre-existing functions, pre-existing KQL queries. So here we have repository of pre-existing prompts. Right now, what I showed you all was from perspective of owner settings, right? We looked at what are the options available here. Now, once it comes to your options available, one option would be switching the capacity. So if you are having more number of queries coming in, more number of requests from the users coming in, we can increase the provisioned capacity. We can specify what is the new capacity that we are looking at. Please be careful. Increase in terms of capacity will attract more charges, right? So unless you have optimum utilization of current capacity, don't increase the capacity. Also, it should not be done abruptly by any user, any security admin. So you can have approvals being mapped over here. There can be an approval cycle before anybody goes and increases the capacity. If you look at the next option available that I showcased currently was making changes in terms of plugin settings. So you can see which plugins are enabled for contributors and owners both, and which plugins are enabled only for owners. So we can see the details below like I showed you all. You can try this once again. So earlier one that we mentioned was in terms of owner settings, switching capacity, manage billing, changing of compute units. If you want to specify permissions, who can upload files, right? All these values can be done inside owner settings. In terms of plugin settings, We can see plugin availability and what are the predefined settings over here. In terms of role assignments, here if you look at options available, we can add members directly from Security Copilot. If you want to add any other roles, say right now we have security administrator, global administrator. If you want additional roles like billing administrator, user management administrator, right? Or if there are any other custom roles that we may have created. And today if we see as part of Entra ID, we have options of adding additional roles. We can add those custom roles over here as well. Let's go to the role assignment. So we have global administrator, security administrator. If we know the user names, you can mention that username over here. Recommended roles is already being added and it is disabled for us in the simulation. Otherwise we can add security operator, security reader as well. A minute ago I mentioned about whenever we want to increase the capacity, make sure we are optimally using the current capacity. How would we know that we have been successfully using that capacity? Now that information will be available under the usage monitoring section. So what is the provisioned unit? And if I want to go for a new capacity over here, I can add the member. Last 7 days, what has been the usage? Right. So currently, since this is a new environment, it does not show any usage of the resources. In real world scenarios, this is how it should look like. So what was the usage in recent days? Which session IDs, which type of prompts have been used? Copilot in Microsoft Purview, Azure Firewall, which plugins have been used, which prompts have been used in the recent times. So this is how the information should be shown over here. As far as preferences are concerned, this is more from a perspective of UI. What type of UI you would want to map over here. What kind of theme we would want, light theme, dark theme, high contrast, right? Those themes we can map over here. Details in terms of data and privacy, I would recommend you can leave it as it is. More important over here would be our settings section over here, owner settings, plugin settings, role assignment and usage monitoring. These would be the primary members over here. As far as our current tenant is concerned, we are onto a Woodgrove tenant. If you have any other tenants being mapped, you can see the complete list over here of available tenants, and we can select those tenants where we already have Security Copilot being provisioned. One would say, Om Prakash, what sense does it make for us? So let me help you with a scenario. So in my case, being a managed service provider within Synergetics, what we do is we have large number of customers. We are managing Azure subscriptions on their behalf. So in that context, this makes actual sense for us, because we are already being added as a security administrator into those subscriptions. So what we do is we have those tenants available here, and wherever these resources have been purchased, wherever this resource has been purchased, the resources have been provisioned over here, right? We are able to see those tenants and work with resources or manage incidents within that environment, right? That's how these tenants would make sense, right? So if you see the example, a user whose logs are using a Fabricam account can select the tenant used by Copilot, provided they have tenant access. So once we are done with this, these are set of sample prompts that we can look at. Select a user, search for a specific role or a plugin. Let's go back to our simulated environment. Let's go to the current workspace. So what group is the app name assigned to? Cloud architecture guidance. What are the critical Sentinel incidents right now? Check the Defender vulnerabilities regarding a specific ID. So if we are aware about the ID number, we can mention that. Can you show me the list of Sentinel workspaces? So if we have these resources being created in the background, we'll be able to get this information. Which threat actors are targeting the industry, specifically retail industry? If there are any DLP alerts, for a specific user in last 7 days, we can mention the UPN ID for it and get the relevant details for the same. Right? So once it comes to your prompt bar, this is where we are typing our respective prompts, checking for specific details over here. So there are any new plugins being added, or you want to enable these plugins from here: Azure Firewall, Web Application Firewall, Admin Center. So these are the current mapped resources: Entra ID, XDR, Threat Intelligence, Windows 365. So any plugins that you want to add over here, that details we can map from here. So which prompts, which sources you want to associate. So this will be part of your prompt bar. So I showed you one of the prompt icons over here, that is sources. So if you look at the prompt details, analyze threat from actor profile, We can see the complete list of available prompt book. And this is the template which I was referring to. So if you are using a specific prompt book, it will provide a complete template, and once we have mentioned these values, it will execute these steps and help you with the right set of results over here. Along with these prompts books, we also have system capabilities over here, which can help us analyze a script, analyze security data over here. I already discussed about the plugins and the files section. So as we go ahead, some of our simulations, we will be working with the files section within our environment. I'll skip the help aspect over here. As we know, we already have resources available from Microsoft documentation. We have set of training resources available. So how to use prompt books, how to optimally utilize the existing resources, all that information we'll be able to get from the Microsoft documentation. So you can take a look at that. You have a complete YouTube channel where we can see step-by-step guidance from perspective of how one can leverage on these search plugins, creation of custom prompt books. So even before we go ahead and purchase these resources, we should have knowledge of creating these members, managing these resources, and working on a simulated environment. Okay, so let's proceed ahead. So if you look at the implementation of one of the incidents, Microsoft 365 Defender incident investigation, like I mentioned, so here we can have a complete process log, right? And what is the actions involved within this process log? If you see the steps involved, choosing the incident analysis, processing our request, and preparing the response. So if you recall the orchestration that we mentioned earlier, you will be able to see the orchestration steps over here. So I quickly ran through some of the steps so that we get a gist of what these features are and the purpose of these features. Let's go to the next simulation over here. Just give me a moment. Guys, you all can close the previous environment because each resource over here will give you each lab over here will be the separate simulation environment. Take your time, go through the steps involved. This is exploring the standalone experience. Now in this one, it is going to the next step. So two initial steps that we have done, that is creating the environment, creating the Copilot resource. That part is being taken care. Then we went ahead with setting up the owner permissions, role permissions, checking for plugin permissions or plugin resources. That aspect is being taken care. Now we are going to the next step here, that is creation of relevant sessions and executing some of the prompt books over here. Let's go ahead, perform the simulation here. Now there are two options being mentioned. The above one, I would say skip that, scroll below. Microsoft Security Copilot. Open this in a new window so that we can tab or move between both the resources. We can read through the steps and we can implement these steps within our simulation environment. So first aspect we already done. Let's go to the next steps over here. Select menu icon, hamburger icon. Let's go to my sessions. So last time when we checked, this section was empty because that simulation was primarily for owner settings and other base options. Now this simulation is primarily about pre-existing sessions, and if you see the prompts here, what are the last three failed logins? Device summary for a specific desktop, high blast radius anomalous activity investigation, critical sentinel incidents right now. So these are pre-existing sessions that has been executed. We can check for the recent sessions. Let's go to our prompt book library, the next option. And here, let's go to the third section, that is Woodgrove, where we can see organization specific prompts, or organization specific prompt books that is being created. You can check for Microsoft specific resources, Defender incident, Sentinel incident, Microsoft user analysis. So we can look at the pre-existing members over here. So let's look at the tag over here. So we can do any kind of custom tabs over here. based on criteria, based on specific values that you want to map. So we can have more number of filtering over here. So till now we have looked till step number 4. Let's go to step number 5. Select the home menu icon. Let's go to agents. Some agents operate in Copilot standalone experience, such as Microsoft Entra. So you can have, if you remember, there are two experiences. One is standalone and second is embedded experience. So right now what we are using is a standalone experience. Let's go to threat intelligent briefing agent. Right, let's go to the agent section, third one. Threat intelligent briefing agent. So what has been the recent activity? So we can check for specific details over here. What are the permissions being given? It is running under which particular account? Which plugins have been used behind the scene? Let's go to the next one, conditional access optimization agent. Let's go back to the agents that we have. Conditional access optimization agent. So you'll see these agents are background tasks which has been completed. Let's open this in Entra environment. There's a link beside it, manage in Entra. We can see the status over here, which ones are active. Threat intelligence, conditional access, both of them are active. We can see our agents over here, conditional access optimization agent. What has been the recent suggestions? So from an execution point of view, what is the final outcome that we have? All that outcome, all that details we can see over here. What are the suggested next steps to be done? So we can review these suggestions, perform these actions over here. Right, so this is where I am. I've opened this in Entra environment. Everyone go ahead, try this out. Just give it a moment. Yeah, so if you see, mitigate risk users with password reset. You want to apply a suggestion, review policy changes. So not just suggestion, but also successfully implementing it within a given environment. Add 8 users to existing policy. Approve client applications. Right. So I have applied 2 suggestions over here based on the details being mentioned. Everybody go ahead, try this out within your environment for conditional access under agents, conditional access optimization, threat intelligence briefing. Take your time. Do let me know if you are stuck somewhere facing a problem. So I'm sure everybody is done with this. Let's proceed ahead. So this was step number 5 that I just mentioned about, that is usage of agents, checking for conditional access optimization agents. Let's go to step number 6. As far as step number 6 is concerned, this is what I showcased earlier, how one can go to owner settings, contributor settings, checking for security compute units. This part we have done. Login settings, this also is being taken care. I think this is being repeated. This part we already have done. Step number 8, role assignment. This also has been taken care. Let me quickly run through it once again, since this is a new simulation environment. Let me see if there are any change, anything new over here. Security compute units, 500 units. I don't see any changes here. Capture data from Security Copilot. Allow Microsoft to capture human and review data from Security Copilot. Build and validate Microsoft Security AI models. Allow Microsoft Purview to access, process, copy. any files? Who can upload files? Contributors and owners can upload files. As far as plugins are concerned, manage plugin availability. Right now all of them are mapped to owners itself. Allow Security Copilot to access data from Microsoft 365 services. If you remember, add recommended roles. This was disabled in the previous section. Now this is being enabled. Microsoft Entra roles, Purview roles, Defender roles. So I can map something like blue over here. We can add recommended roles over here. So if you look at the presentation that we are talking about, it mentioned about Copilot contributors. Recommended Microsoft security rules. There are 62 rules which is being added as contributors. Earlier this was disabled. Now we in this simulation we are able to perform this role here. So 3 people: global administrator, security administrator, every Howard. There are 3 people who are mapped over here, mapped in terms of owner resource. Right. So in terms of step number 9, if you see management of workspace, there is a subsequent exercise in this module that explores this option in more detail section as we go ahead. Usage monitoring was empty while we were expecting more information there. Let's go to this one, this simulation, and here we are able to see the data. So provisioned units being used 3 out of 500 units in last 1 hour. Can you brief me last 7 days how has been the usage? So we can see the graphical report over here, respective session IDs, what was the Copilot experience over here. Guys, when I'm spending good amount of money, I would definitely be interested in how much is the usage. Am I actually getting the getting value for my money, right? So as a team lead or as a project manager, I would want these kind of detailed reports. So if you see number of queries being executed, which users, which agents. So you see maximum of these things are being done by agents which are running in background, performing respective tasks over here. They are specific. These are specific users: Jonas, Azim, Ismat. So they are the ones who are actively using these assigned resources, writing appropriate queries over here. Right. So this is step number 10 in terms of usage monitoring. Everybody go ahead, try this out. You can use a date filter, time filter. You can specify a custom date range over here. I'm skipping step number 11. We have already checked for these options. Let's see if I have new tenants over here. I'll try and verify that. No, still a single tenant, that is Woodgrove. Single user who has logged in over here. So from response debugging perspective, do you want summary of that or you want verbose information? Right. So this was in terms of settings, going deeper into the agents, looking at pre-existing members over here. Can I get a quick thumbs up if you have successfully got it completed? You can put it on the chat as well. Thanks, Kaushal. Anybody else who has got these simulations running? Let's go ahead. Let's go to the next section here. Now, if you see the next section, this is exploring the prompts that we would want to execute. So in the current scenario, we have seen the pre-existing sessions. What are the last 3 failed logins? Let me open this session. Can you see this? 3 steps completed. Choose Microsoft Entra IDs, process your request and prepare the response for it. So there's one very important question. What is the difference between Sentinel and our current environment, which is Security Copilot? So once it comes to your Security Copilot, it is leveraging on generative AI, collating information which is coming from outside or a web resource and organizing responses in such a way that we are able to directly use it, consume it specify solutions for it and execute the same. So you all can see the implementation over here, specifying the feedback that you'd want, list failed sign-in attempts, and each of these is more from a conversation basis. Unlike KQL queries where it just gives the response, it shows the next step. Om Prakash, what is the next thing that you want me to perform? Do you want me to show the sign-in logins, risk level assigned, right? So all those subsequent steps we can execute here. So that would be the advantage which I see over here. Let me close this environment. Let's go to the next task, explore prompts to try. I'm sure everybody is done till here. Let's go to the next one, Microsoft Security Copilot. Let me take a new environment here. Let's try and execute some of the pre-existing prompts. Let's go to our existing sessions. So right now I showed you the first one, last 3 failed logins. Let's go for the next one, device summary. Execute the existing sessions which are there. Check for the sessions over here. This will help us understand what will be the kind of outputs that one would have, what is the responses which are being achieved within the Security Copilot. High blast radius anomalous activity investigation. So which users, what were the challenges being faced, what is the assigned roles, which is the current IP address being used over here. And for each users you can get a deep dive information. So we have seen the available prompt books, system capabilities, right? So these are prompt books that we have. I'm in the right resource. says this feature is not available within the simulation. Let me try this again. Just give me a minute. Let me go to see all prompt books. I don't know why it's not working, why it was not working earlier. So check impact of, so you can see all the prompt books, what are the resources available. We can see all the system capabilities, Azure firewall, web application firewall, file uploads, generic information, Defender XDR, resources from Microsoft Intune. So depending upon which plugins have been added, you'll be able to see all the information over here. So here we are, see all the prompt books, see all the system capabilities. Let's go to our plugins over here. So you can see two sections. One is the Microsoft sections, and depending upon which resources that you want to work with, we can enable those members over here. Microsoft Threat Intelligence Agent, for SOC compliance, surface management. Similarly, we have non-Microsoft resources as well. So if you have any specific product licenses being purchased, we can enable those members. We'll come to this part a bit later, how we can upload a document or a PDF file, which would be a knowledge source. Like I mentioned, many organizations, they may primarily have their own repository or their incident management content saying that if this was a problem, this is a specific solution that we found out and this has worked for us, right? That information we can make it available to our Copilot. Okay, so everyone, go ahead, complete your tasks over here, check for the respective sources, plugins, files. We have already executed some of the sample sessions over here. Once we are done with this, let's take a break. Everyone, grab a cup of tea or coffee before we go to the next module. Welcome back everyone. Can I see quick raise of hands, people who are back? Can I see raise of hands, people who are back? We'll give 2-3 more minutes for others to join in. Then we'll continue our session. Guys, let's proceed ahead. Can I see quick raise of hands, people who are back? We are running short on time. Let's proceed ahead with the next module. So till now we looked at various responses. We have looked at various responses, and within that response, after running the pre-existing sessions, we got our responses here. Now once we have got the response, what would be the next steps that one can do? So if you look at the options available, that is pinning a prompt, editing a prompt, rerun the prompt, delete an existing prompt, or once we have received the outcome, you can export the response, copy it, make it available to another member, or provide a feedback over here. So if you see the current environment, if you look at the current environment, let me go to my sessions. What are last 3 failed logins? Right. So here if you see, pin, unpin the response, edit the prompt, resubmit the prompt, right? How's the response? Export response, copy response, right? So if you want to see the details of this resource, you can see the summary of these details, summary of these members over here. So if you're not able to make sense out of the current response being shown, so extreme right hand side, here you have an option called as open pin board, where we can see this information. As far as this prompt feedback is concerned, in most of our applications, you must have seen these kind of feedback and response mechanisms. When it comes to generative AI primarily is focusing on how these resources are working, what are the options available, and how one can look at the details within this. So as far as this prompt feedback is concerned, this helps the security copilot to retrain itself or enhance itself based on the responses being given, right? So there's no human behind it which is consuming these responses. It's the model itself which looks at these responses and refines or fine tunes the pre-existing environment. What I showed you all right now was in terms of pin board, which has a summary tab, and even from there we can edit, share, or export the contents of pinboard. Along with this, what we have also seen earlier is various plugins available. Now once it comes to your out of the box plugins or on behalf of the pre-existing model, there are a lot of existing plugins available for Microsoft and non-Microsoft. Now some of these plugins will require additional setup, additional licenses to be purchased if they are not already available, already present within our environment. So once it comes to these information, we will have to capture these details, capture this information, and make sure these resources are being mapped over here. So if you see the last points, some of these plugins may show restricted based on the owner settings. So currently, if you see what we have done initially is we have given global admin permission, security admin permission on the Azure subscription, right? As far as Microsoft 365 is concerned, we are not aware about the owner permissions on those subscriptions, or user does the user have any licenses on that area or not. We are not aware on that. So we need to make sure we have permissions given to this particular user on other relevant resources from where we want to fetch the log details and make it part of our solution available here. If you look at the plugin settings, while doing the setting for that resource, we can specify the resource name, subscription ID, resource group, right? So these details will have to map over here. Now as far as these subscription ID or tenant ID is concerned, right, this may differ from service to service, which resource we are setting up over here. Just give me a moment. Let me see if I am able to showcase this resource here under the plugins section. One second. This may not be the right place where the setup option is available. We'll have to go to the prompt section. From there, go to the Microsoft section. Right here we can configure the resource. So Microsoft Sentinel, Microsoft AI search, right? So here you can specify the workspace name, subscription name, resource group name. This is where we have to specify the settings, right? So currently if you see, Microsoft Sentinel workspaces are not even mapped. Even for the current examples that we saw, we are able to fetch all that information without using Sentinel support, right? So if you see this section, tenant ID, workspace name, subscription ID, right? So depending upon which resource that you are working or which resource you want to set up, we'll have to specify the relevant values for that. So it could be a PaaS service, it could be your Azure resource that you want to work with. We'll have to provide relevant details for that. In terms of non-Microsoft plugins, here we can, I already mentioned about Visa in starting off the session, where I clearly mentioned that even though it is a Microsoft resource, Security Copilot or Copilot for Security, whatever way you want to term it, it does not mean that it will only support Microsoft security solutions, right? So there are a lot of other members as well, which can be configured, which can be mapped, and here you'll see you will have to go and purchase respective licenses for it, associate that license information over here. So if you see some of the plugins available, Copilot for Security, ServiceNow, Copilot for Security plugin for Splunk, Cyber, Grey Noise, URL Scan, right? So as an organization, they will have to decide what is the current resource, what is the current members that they have, current resources that they would want to map, and how they want to work with these components. So in case they want to associate these resources, they will have to provide right kind of information, right kind of details over here. In current scenarios, if we see, there are a lot of web-based plugins as well. So we have individual or independent softwares, which we already spoke about, Microsoft, non-Microsoft. There could be a web plugin as well, website plugins, and depending upon the browser that we are using, which could be Chrome browser, which could be our Edge browser, right? All recent versions of these browsers, or Opera, Firefox, right? Each of these browsers that we see, they come with their own plugin support. There are a lot of pre-existing extensions that we have with these browsers, right? And as far as these browsers are concerned, they have their own certificate repository that they are maintaining behind the scene, connecting to a specific banking site or a specific secured resource, right? Even those can be very crucial, specific to stopping any kind of threats or stopping any kind of attacks, any kind of unwanted windows being opened over there, right? So there we can leverage on these members as well. So if there is any information captured within these resources, how would you want to work with that? So here we can add plugins from website as well. Any other third-party plugins or custom plugins? Remember in the earlier module we mentioned about Copilot Studio, right? And through this Copilot Studio, our focus over here was primarily looking at creation of custom plugins, creation of extensibility to an existing Copilot resources. Same thing can be mapped for Security Copilot. Now one would say, Om Prakash, isn't it already a predefined resource, predefined solution that we are talking about? Why would somebody want to extend this? So guys, to understand, when it comes to organizations, they may not be using standard resources, right? They may not be using standard security features only. They may have gone to the next level, and as part of their implementation, they may have specified details, extended their current environment, added more details, specific implementation resources, custom resources, right? So there are developer teams who may have extended their environment. Now, if we have to take care of those aspects, right? If we have to take care of that custom applications or extensibility to the core environment, we will have to extend the Security Copilot also, right? So taking care of those custom applications, custom security solutions, we will have to extend our resources. There are a lot of third-party plugins also available in terms of OpenAI APIs using Azure AI Foundry. Remember morning section when we started generative AI, I mentioned about AI Foundry as a resource. That's where we are mapping these members over here. We can create our own models, custom models for security, and we would want to associate with our Security Copilot. Let's proceed ahead. Let's go to the next member over here. I'll go a bit fast because we are running short on time, and since we already have our foundations being set, we are aware about this environment, we know the features of it. Let me share this link on the chat so you all can try out along with me. Do let me know if you all have any questions, doubts, queries. Let's go ahead and please be careful. Don't continue with the existing links. For each simulation you have a separate link where a specific area has been enabled for us, where we can try out, perform the activities on that environment. When it comes to your actual implementation, we'll have all these options available at one place, so you all can leverage on that. So test Microsoft Sentinel prompt. From the prompt bar, enter the prompt, summarize Microsoft Sentinel incident number 30342. Let's do that. Let me go to the prompt bar. Let's mention my query over here. So you'll see this is already initiated a session. Check the sources available. It says, sorry Om Prakash, the required plugin is missing. Please enable the plugin and try again. Right, and that's what is being expected. The Copilot process log shows that it can't complete the request. Expand the items for detailed information. Now what is the missing plugin over here? So there is a Sentinel plugin which is missing. Let's fix that. Let's go to the sources icon. Let's go to Microsoft plugins and let's go to the Sentinel plugin over here. So once we know the problem, let's solve this. Microsoft Purview, Microsoft Sentinel. So let's do the setup over here. I don't know the workspace name, subscription name and resource group name. So how do I find that information? I need to go to Azure portal where we can capture these information. Right, so I have log analytics workspace. I have my defender resource over here. Let me go back. What is the workspace name? Sorry, this is subscription name. This is my workspace name. Subscription name. Let's mention the resource group name, Woodgrove-RG. I prefer copying these values because even if you make a small mistake here of a space or any other details, it might give an error. So what we have done now is we have set up our environment over here for Microsoft Sentinel. We have got this ready. I'm still not sure if this is going to solve the problem unless we see the right output over here. So I've configured this member. Let's go back to the browser. Let's repeat the steps. Summarize Microsoft Sentinel incident 30342. Not showing any error. Default workspace name, default subscription name, resource group name. It's done. Okay, so now you see, so choose incident analysis, (9 seconds), processed your request, 40 seconds, which is done on the Azure environment, prepared your response, and this is the final response over here. High severity incident, user account compromise identified, unknown attack. What was the challenge over here? Which files were impacted? Right? So we can see the response here. Just give it a moment. So I have pinned it to the board so it can summarize the incident, what has happened, what went wrong. Right? So there was a risky login from a risky IP address by this particular user called as Natasha David. So we can see the details over here and specific timelines for the same. Are you able to get this working? Configuration of Sentinel plugin. Anyone facing any issues over here? Can I get a quick thumbs up or raise of hand, people who have got it done successfully? Let's proceed ahead. This was a smaller lab as compared to the previous ones because foundational settings we had done. We are aware about the plugins. Let's go to the next member here, that is custom prompt books. So as far as these prompt books are concerned, these are, as the name suggests, it is collection of multiple prompts. We can have our, thanks Kaushal, we have our custom prompt, custom collection of these prompts, and we can create our own prompt book. Now as the name suggests, whenever we are talking about prompt books, these should be collation of related members together, right? Say in the recent example we worked with Sentinel, right? So once your incident has been retrieved, then what is the next step that you would want to do, right? Or if you want to say dig deeper on that incident, say this was the incident ID, I have got information, what is the date, when it happened, was there any which machine was being used, which IP address, which machine was being used, is the machine quarantined, what is the current status of that machine. So you can correlate all the other activities or steps on that particular incident, right? So that's how we can create a prompt book. As far as this prompt book is concerned, we can specify a name to it, add a tag, add a description, right? And if there is any input parameter required, like I mentioned earlier, you want to create a template out of it, correct? So whenever you are creating a template out of this resource, we can specify saying using angular brackets, we can specify these are the input parameters that I would expect, and then create that prompt book. Let's take an example of how do you create a prompt book over here. Let me close the previous resources. So we can target on the new member. I'll go a bit fast because now we are looking into specific features, specific resources. If you are doing it with me, it will be easier. Let's go to the new simulated environment, Microsoft Security Copilot. Last 3 failed logins. Let's go to our existing session. So now we are fast because now we know the environment well. We know how to perform these steps. So that's how any new environment will pan out, depending upon the time it takes for the initial activities. And once you are through with that, then you can perform the next steps quickly. So once we are done with this, let's create a custom prompt book. Just give me a moment. Should give an option over here. Yeah, here at the top, create prompt book. Click on that. Let's name this prompt book. You can select a box in the pin icon. Select a box icon next to the pin icon and select all the prompts. Let's click on create prompt book icon, which I have done. The name is failed logins. Tags is Microsoft Entra. Let's mention the description over here. Find the last failed logins. What is the last 3 failed logins? What is the UPN for failed logins? If I want to add any other prompt, okay. So here it says, what are the last 3 failed logins? I want to change this, and instead of this, I want to mention a number. I want to customize it. Okay. So let the user, let the administrator define how many failed logins they are looking at, right? So this is now becoming a placeholder. The first prompt, you want to replace the number 3 with input parameters. So I have done this, angular brackets. I have saved this as well. Let's go ahead and add one more member over here, add one more prompt in this. What are the authentication methods for these failed logins? Right. So what is the UPN for failed login? I'll leave it as it is. Add new prompt. What are the authentication methods for failed login? I've added a question mark as well. The next step is to select who can use this prompt book. Leave the setting just me. Here you can use anyone in this workspace as well. We'll keep it as it is. We'll go as, see, right now it is recommended that you stick to the steps being mentioned. The reason being, we may not have options for making those changes in this environment. Let's go to prompt book library, the third option. This is a simulated environment, so we may not have permissions to do a lot of other things which are not mapped. Right, so this is what we have just created. Failed logins, input as number, right? Let's go ahead, run this prompt book. Let's specify the input number that you'd want. Say I want last 5 failed logins. So what is the UPN for failed logins? What are the authentication methods for those failed logins? Right, can you see the next one? What is the status of the user account? Is it logged out? What is list the groups it is member of? What is the department that the user belongs to? So all related members, you can, related prompts you can see over here. Okay, so this is our custom prompt book and how we can leverage on this. Now, if you want to extend it even further, we can have Azure AI search plugin where we can specify the details of your AI search service, name of the index. Please be aware that this AI search service is expensive in nature. This has to be configured with appropriate model. So what you will require over here is Azure AI search plus the model details on Azure Foundry that you are mapping over here. So that information has to be provided. I'm skipping this for now, just from the time point of view. If you look at the, you all can try it out later. As far as the links are concerned, you will go to the next member here. So we are on unit number 8, right? So if you go to unit 9, you will be able to go to the next steps over here. You all can try out those next steps. Since I'm running short on time, I'm skipping that particular AI extension for now. Let's go to the next section over here. So earlier we mentioned about the knowledge base, right? Where I mentioned about the earlier incidents or earlier repository which is being maintained by the organization. I'm not saying Microsoft may not have all the information, but why let go of our own experiences? If we can leverage on that, right? Let's go ahead, and because we are already working with that customer or within our environment, we know about the custom application which has been built, right? So based on that information, based on that details, we can leverage on these members over here. So here what we can do is either we can configure Azure AI search plugin like we mentioned, or we can also go for a file upload. Now once it comes to file upload, I'm sure your files will not be 3 MB, to be much beyond that. We can break it up into smaller sections, or most of the critical incidents or critical resources that you would want to map, just collate or bring in only that information, right? So if you're looking at a Word doc or a PDF format which is more exhaustive or takes more size, we can make it simpler by using a TXT format as well, whichever is lighter in size and it comes in that criteria of 3 MB, right? So once we have that information being created, in details being created, we can upload it within the Copilot section, upload it under the manage sources section just below plugins, and we will be able to see that the details mentioned inside that document, inside that TXT file is made part of the response when the grounding activity is being taken up. Let's go ahead, check out our resource over here, how to leverage on a knowledge base. Let's go to our simulation over here. Now before I perform that activity, if you see the lab steps, it says, Om Prakash, can you download this information, download the detail that we have so that it can be used later. Extreme right hand side, more file actions, click on that. Here you have the download option, click on this triple dot. So once we have the file downloaded, let's proceed ahead. Let's go to our simulated environment. Even if we don't read the steps, we know what actions to perform, what activities we have to do over here, from where we have to go and upload this information. Right, so let's go to our Copilot. From manage sources, select files, plugins is the first option that we already have seen. No, I am not able to see the option available here. Let's go to the next step, that is plugin settings. Close the manage source window, home menu, owner settings, contributors and owners can upload the file. Let's make that change over here. Once it is done, Let's go back to sources once again, and now we have option of upload file. We already have downloaded the file earlier. It should be in the downloads section. Right? Let's go ahead, upload this resource, upload our member. So once the file upload is being done, let's see if we are getting the information from that. Summarize the uploaded file, Woodgrove corporate data handling policy.pdf. So let's see the response here. So it is checking for the uploaded file, resources being processed, prohibition of USB devices, data transfer, data storage. Now based on this information, what data handling policy should I consider implementing Microsoft Purview? So once it comes to customizations, it could be using your online database, online resource that we have using OpenAI search or Azure AI search resources, or we can have our custom documents as well. Now we have done a lot of activities over here. Let's quickly go through a knowledge check. A security analyst needs to review past sessions in Security Copilot. After accessing the standalone experience, which option they should select to manage and review these sessions? Anyone? Which would be the right answer for the first one? Select My Sessions from home menu, help icon, or we should go to the settings section. So what do you all recommend? Should be the first one, My Sessions from home menu. And if you see, thanks Kaushal. So if you see, most of our current example, the last 3 failed logins, we have been looking from the My Sessions option. After enabling the Defender ESM plugin in Copilot, security analyst wants to assess the organization exposure. Which prompt should be used to obtain this information? CVSS score, expired SSL certificate, is my external attack surface impacted by CVE? So for the second one, if you want to check for a specific vulnerability, what should we do? Kaushal, any suggestions? Any guesses? So it should be the third one actually, because here we are talking about a specific vulnerability. So we can have the number there, right? That's why the focus here is specific vulnerability. Let's go for the third one, security analyst needs to integrate ServiceNow incident management using Microsoft Security Copilot, which authentication method should be configured to enable this integration. Anonymous authentication, OAuth authorization, Copilot uses on behalf of authentication or no other authentication. Anyone? Any suggestions here? This will be OAuth authorization, because here we are talking about third-party solutions, third-party integration, and most of your Azure services are mapped with OAuth authorization. So before we close out our session, so I think we have done extensive amount of work, explored multiple options within the standalone environment. Before we close out our session, let's quickly look at the embedded, look at some of the examples of embedded experience, especially Microsoft 365 environment, Azure services, Microsoft Defender portal. This is where one would be able to see implementation of embedded experience, that is within that environment specific to the context Azure environment or Defender environment, writing KQL queries. There you can see the use cases for embedded experience. Like I mentioned, Defender XDR, Microsoft Purview, Entra, Microsoft Intune, Defender for Cloud. These are the areas where one can leverage on embedded experience. So once it comes to your Security Copilot standalone experience, I would not say it's a bad experience for me. It's an excellent experience spanning across multiple solutions, but this is more overarching kind of implementation. If I want to be very specific, I will have to specify a lot of details here in terms of user information, context information, what data I want, where I am I right now. I'll have to give all that information. So if I want to be very precise, specific capabilities directly, and I want quick responses on that, embedded experience will be a great journey for me. That's where I can look at more details for it. I can have cross product investigation, which can check for Copilot capabilities within that platform. I can have specific role permissions required. I don't need actually a role permissions when I'm using the embedded experience. The reason being, I have already logged in. I am already in that environment. So unless I have that permissions, I will not be able to perform those activities, right? Say for example, if I don't have permissions on Defender portal itself, right? So forget about using that embedded experience. I will not be even able to even log in inside that platform, correct? Now once it comes to your embedded experience, if you see the UI over here, so within that environment, here you will be able to see the option. So on right hand side, right, like same way how we are able to see the pin board, same way you will be able to see all the incident details, incident summary, if you have any questions to be asked. People who have been using Power Platform or Word Copilot, Excel Copilot, right, they would already have this experience earlier. Similar information, similar details we can leverage within this platform as well. Now once it comes to this embedded experience, it can be used for summarizing incident, getting guided responses. So if when we are having say a multi-staged incident, we are stuck at some place, there is a specific error code over here, I can see all that information. If you see the standalone experience, I will have to go back to my environment, capture that ID, come back to my standalone experience, then I can mention that. In case of embedded experience, it's just side by side while I am performing those actions. So it will be quick for me to ask relevant questions, get responses to it, and perform next steps. Even if you see standalone experience, it provides me all the suggestions here. Now I have to take one tab, okay, one tab which is standalone experience, second tab where I have the actual environment, perform those steps one by one. Whereas if I have a embedded experience, I can see that option on the right hand side, left hand side I can perform that action immediately. So speed and efficiency of implementing that details becomes easier. Standalone experience will be good where you want to get all the information, get all the details, and which are the resources impacted from an overall point of view, right? So getting information, whereas implementational details I would recommend to go for embedded experience. So here you can look at incident reports, device summary, identity summary, right? So these are set of core capabilities that one can leverage within Microsoft Defender XDR or within Microsoft Defender XDR using embedded response. So if you look at the options available, summarizing incidents, time, date when this happened, what were the assets involved over here, name of the threat actors. If you look at the guided responses, here we can look at steps involved. Then now this is what I was talking about. What are the recommended actions? So while I am seeing these things on right hand side, left hand side I can go and start implementing these things. In some of the cases like cloud remediation, right, Defender for cloud, I can just click on that remediation options and that remediation gets applied. That is something which is an advantage of embedded experience. From scripts and code, many a time when we are writing PowerShell scripts, when we are writing KQL commands, we make multiple issues or multiple challenges there. So if I want to know what is going wrong, right, I can quickly click on the analyze icon. Here I can click on the analyze icon, understand what mistake I am doing, or if there is a PowerShell script being executed behind the scene, I would want to know what are the what is the repercussion of that, and what is this script trying to do on my underlying environment. Is it trying to disable some of the base backend services? It is trying to unnecessarily add some new files or write some of the details, right? Disable some of the services which are there in the backend, write into a specific file or folder. All that information I will be able to analyze, right? So I have script analysis being done by clicking on this analyze icon, and this is part of your. Now some of these features, if you see guys, is not available as part of Sentinel. Sentinel can help us do a incident management, but trying to find out what is the purpose of a specific script, generating a solution and a relevant script for that, that Sentinel cannot do. Now this is the example which is being showcased is primarily from a current environment point of view. Here we are talking about PowerShell, but this is also relevant from JavaScript, Python, Bash, any kind of batch files that you have, right? So a lot of other scripting languages are also being supported here. Excuse me, can you also help me generate KQL query? It says yes, don't worry, I can do that for you. I can give you the, you tell me what do you want. So using your natural language, tell me what do you want. Find alerts about unusual login activity. This will be the KQL command for it, right? So it assists, like we mentioned in beginning of our session, this is more like a assistant that you have. So rather than going out to a chat GPT or going to Google, Bing or any other search engine, finding out this information, doing a hit and trial kind of method, this becomes much more easier. So it will generate the query, run the query or add this query to the editor, right. So this is what it can assist us in doing it, generate appropriate incident reports. So what is the timestamp that you have, what would be the remediation actions that one can do. So these are the primary members that can be done by using the embedded experience, embedded resource that we have. As part of our Defender resources, if you see the detailing being done, that is attack story, creating a complete graph of that, investigation, evidence and responses for it. So most of these things is already being done over here. But each of these members are within different sections, within different tabs. We have to move between that. If you have to generate a single summary for it, because see, I as a um, incident manager or as an administrator, I love detailing. I would want to see how this entire resource panned out. I would see these diagrams, understand it, and then I will go and explain it to somebody. But if I have to explain these things to the end user, how it happened in a verbose manner, right? That summarization, that analysis will make sense for me. And I would not say it's a non-technical language. I would say it's a semi-technical language. A file has been detected as malicious by 60 out of 71 engines in various total scan, including Microsoft engine, which means it is highly challenging for our current environment, right? And it has been verified and banned or stopped by most of other antivirus solutions, right? So that is what it means. So we can explain these things into semi-technical or more easier details as compared to what an administrator would expect within their environment, right? So it can provide these kind of information about the suspicious files, what is the impact, what is the threat level that is there, and how effective has been Defender as a solution for your current threat analysis. Okay, so we mentioned about files, we mentioned about the threat details, summarizing of devices, what is a device risk policy, what were the identities being mapped over here, which was the identity being used. So if you remember, as part of our previous exercise, we mentioned about Natasha David, and her account has been used from unwanted location, and that has created a problem. So you can see the complete details here. From implementation perspective, you can go to the next resource over here, exploring the capabilities of Copilot in Microsoft Defender XDR. Right. So similar to our earlier solutions, this solution we can explore using Microsoft Defender portal, where you all can see the embedded experience. So since you all have already got a gist of it, understood how these things have to be done in a standalone environment, embedded environment, I would recommend tomorrow or whenever you all get time, you all can explore these resources, perform respective lab implementations before you all go ahead with your applied skill exam. all these applied skill exams are primarily focusing on implementing it within a given environment. So we can go to specific section over here. And here you'll see your option of Copilot. Right? So Triage, so once you click on Copilot, all these details that you are seeing are part of your Copilot resource. Okay, so you all can explore this. This is much more simpler as compared to the standalone environment. That's why we took slightly longer in that area. Anyone, any questions, you all can mention on the chat. Please fill in your feedback form. I'm sure everybody has redeemed the badges. So with this we complete our today's session. Thank you very much everyone. Shubh, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Everybody, thank you so much for attending this session. Everybody, liked the session. Please do give your feedback. Link is shared in the chat box, and do redeem your learning achievement badges. Once you are done with this, please just drop a thumbs up in the chat or just say done, and then you can end the session. Please don't forget to give your feedback. It is very important for. Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone can end the session once you are done filling the feedback form. Please do give your feedback once you are done. Just drop a thumbs up in the chat box, and then you can end the session. It's a request. Please do fill the feedback form as it is very important for social. Please do give your feedback and redeem your learning achievement badges. Once done, just give me a thumbs up in the chat box. Then you can end the session. Kaushal, you can redeem your learning achievement badges. You can share, upload your badges in your LinkedIn profile, X profile. There is no any certain participation badge, but yes, we have we do have learning achievement badges for this session which you have attended. Please do redeem your badge.